Oh, hello. In today's video, I'm going to look at my newest painted kill team, my Death Guard. And we're also going to talk about some weathering products that I tried for the first time on this team and give you my thoughts on them. Yep. So let's get straight into it. I haven't had to do an inspiration slide for a little while because generally speaking, I paint things in the studio colour scheme. You know, my Sisters of Battle Army are all Order of Martin Lady, and I've got my Fallen, who are all, the pre-Heresy Dark Angels colour scheme, and all the various other things I've shown on the channel. Tend to be, not always. My Tau were something I made up, but I really don't like the default colour scheme that the studio do for Death Guard. The green looking one that you can see down here. I don't know, it really undersells the range for me. It's just so kind of nothingy. I really dislike it. I can't really articulate why. So I much prefer the 30k scheme, which is the white and green shown here on the right hand side. So what I decided to do for my team was to kind of age up the Heresy scheme. Just as an aside, I think in general that the Heresy colours for all the legions are better than the 40k colours. I mean, you've got the Death Guard, which is shown on the screen. You've got the World Eaters, who have a blue and white colour scheme, which it looks really good for them because it really shows the blood when you put blood splatter on them. It really it was designed to basically really show the red, and the lore about Khorne Berserkers becoming red because they're just so covered in blood, and at some point they stop washing their armor is pretty cool. The Emperor's Children look far better in purple and gold than in that kind of their standard scheme is like the quartered black and pink that just looks awful. Like the really, really retro Emperor's Children scheme where you paint them all mad multicolours with leather print hide and stuff. That's a thing. That's cool. But the sort of the default Emperor's Children colour scheme in the current Chaos books that's like the pink and black quartered is kind of grim. Alpha Legion looks so much better in their Heresy colours. They're kind of cool turquoise than they do in their kind of navy blue and neon green thing that they have. I even think if the Loyalist legions, the Dark Angels look far better in black than they do in green, and the Space Wolves, I think they look far better in their kind of Heresy era grey than they do in their 40k era the sort of blue. And they've got bluer in 40k as well, I'm sure, over the years when they've reformulated paint. But I generally think the Heresy era colour schemes I think is better. So I tend, whenever I'm painting Chaos Marines, I'll tend to kind of think about their Heresy era, their Legion colour scheme in preference. It turns out that aging up Heresy is kind of similar to Pallid Hand. I learned this like halfway through doing them because I found a Duncan Rhodes tutorial for how to paint a Pallid Hand Plague Bearer, which I think is one of the ones, if you go onto YouTube, it's one of the ones, like Duncan's stuff's behind a paywall now, but some of his things are on YouTube, like his adverts. I didn't follow his Pallid Hand scheme, like, religiously, but I did nick quite a lot of bits from it later on. But the Pallid Hand is a bone armor, and I really wanted to get the white, the dirty white come through from the Heresy scheme. Right, enough rambling. Let's talk about how I did what I did. So here we go. Here's a nice big picture. So the white armor, I used my same recipe for clean white armor. First of all, the one thing that I would say when you're painting something that you intend to weather, from what I've been able to look in, because this is outside my comfort zone. I don't normally wear. I like to wear things a bit. I use a few weathering powders. I'll talk more about it later on feet and things. But this is a big step up from how much I usually like to weather my miniatures. So the white armor, always do white armor this way. Would do an apothecary this way, undercoat grey sear, and then use the apothecary white contrast basically all over the model, and you get kind of a blue grey in all the recesses. And then layer over the flats of the armor in Corax white, and then an edge highlight of bold titanium white, which is the Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl paint. So I don't say the brand of the paint, it's Citadel, as usual. If I say the brand of the paint, that's because it's something interesting. So it's Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl, which is just a bright, normal, clean white. Probably the best clean white paint on the market. I've talked about it before. So I'd painted the white armour up totally, which took a little while. And then I painted the base coats of a lot of the other pieces. So the trim started off Balthazar Gold, which is Games Workshop's worst named paint. It's like that nice deep bronze colour. I know it's called Balthazar Gold because when they brought it out, they didn't have the good golds like the Retributor Armour Gold, and so this was what you used to base coat gold, and then you'd have to try and bring it up to gold, but it works really nicely as a bronze. The shoulder plates are Castellan green. The silver areas are all lead belcher. The black areas are all Corvus black. The little bits of wood, so there's a couple of wooden panels on some of the bolters, and there's a stalk on the converted I should talk a little bit about the conversions, I guess. There's a stalk on the converted banner, which is Dryad Bark. There are a couple of conversions here, not many. Really, they are the... so I've got two more that I haven't painted yet that are more converted. Really, these are just the Marines from the... My brain wants to say Assault on Black Reach, and that's wrong. But the 8th edition starter set, the name of it, Dark Imperium? Dark Imperium? They're just the Plague Marines from Dark Imperium, because between me and Zimbad we had some lying around. And then obviously I wanted to have an icon for Kill Team, so the icon is from the previous edition of the Chaos Space Marine box. Came with a god specific icon for each of the gods. Mrs. T.I. plays Chaos Space Marines, so it went through the Bits Tower and just nicked one of their icons, and then the icon is held up with a pole, which is actually a spare wooden banner pole from a Sisters of Battle Reliquary that I've just cut the top and bottom off to get the nice textured piece of wood and stuck that down in between the two. I think on those four, that's the only bit of conversion that I did, which is good, so we can move on a little bit. The leather, I made a strange choice. I did Steel Legion Drab. I was trying to make the leathery bits look lighter and distressed and aged and cracked and horrible, so I went for a really, really light leather colour because leather gets lighter and lighter over time. Anything that was bone or horns just got an all-over coat of Wraithbone. And the cloth, I tried to go for a kind of distressed purpley cloth, so I went for Demonette Hide, which is like a Slaaneshi base paint that they do that's kind of a slightly purpley grey. And then all of those things, so the trim, the shoulder plates, the silver, the black, the wood, the leather, the bone, the horns, the cloth, all washed with a wash that I made. So for most of those colours in the base coat section, I was kind of looking at the Duncan tutorial that I mentioned, except that I changed up, because he didn't talk about wood, so I had to differentiate between the wood and the leather, so I invented the lighter leather colour, and he didn't have any cloth, so I kind of invented the cloth colour. But it's very much his method, is to do all the base coating and then to do a big wash, so we followed that methodology for these, except that he just washed his Agrax, but then he was doing it over a bone armour. Because I was going for more of a pure white armour, I wanted to have a bit of black in there as well. So I remembered, who was it? Who it was one of the Horus Heresy Open Days of all things, and I was in a seminar about how to paint Titans for Adeptus Titanicus back when that had first launched, I think it was. And one of the Forge World guys, whose name escapes me, really nice guy. His name's escaped me. The only thing I can remember about the chap is that he's bald, but he's a really lovely chap, really accomplished miniature painter in the Forge World style of kind of more gritty and realistic stuff. And he said that he always washes things with a mix of Agrax and Nuln because they temper each other. So I kind of remembered that. I did 2 parts Agrax, 2 parts Nuln, and just 1 part Camo Shade to make things look a little bit grotty. I don't know if you can tell. And then everything in that base coat section was washed with that mix. So 2 parts Agrax, 2 parts Null, and 1 part Camo Shade. I use plastic pipettes to sort of measure out and mix washes and contrasts and things all the time. And I use a little dimple palette to kind of store those mixes. So that worked reasonably well. The only thing, because I wanted it to look dirty and stained and disgusting, so the only thing I layered back up, and this was following the Duncan's advice again on his palette hand video, was to layer the shoulder plates back up Castellan green, so they were a little bit cleaner, just so that green is a bit more of a focus. And then we went and did some edge highlights. I was a bit wary about doing edge highlights at all, because I thought it's going to make them look really clean. So trim was Sycorax bronze. I love the colour of Sycorax bronze. My Sycorax bronze is really chalky, so I really had to pour some medium into that and get it on. I've got like a back massager of all things that I kind of hold the paint down to, and it's mixed far more paint than it has massaged backs. I should get a vortex mixer, but they are expensive and annoying, so yeah, I should get one. The shoulder plates were highlighted with a little bit of Lauren Forest, only really where there's like the cracks in them and a little bit of raised edges. The silver edge highlighted with chrome from Vallejo Model Air. I've raved about that before. The black was highlighted with Esching Grey, the wood with Gawthorpe Brown, the leather with Baneblade Brown, the bone and the horns with, no, that's wrong, I've written Wraithbone, it was with Screaming Skull, you see. So, I mean, they're practically the same colour. Screaming Skull's just a bit more translucent. Cloth was Slanesh Grey to go with the Demonic Hide, and the eyes, so then we paint the eyes. So I finished all the edge highlights. The eyes were done with Vallejo Model Colour Transparent Orange. You could use contrast paint, you could use wash. I just have a bottle, I think Mrs. T.I. bought it on a whim. I just have a bottle of Vallejo Model Colour Transparent Orange, so I thought, why not, let's use that. It's kind of a yellowy orange wash, but you could use something from Citadel just as easily. Did a little bit of pure contrast, sort of one thick coat stuff. So the slime on the banner pole and the body of the fly are just Plaguebearer Flesh contrast, and the fly wings are just Apothecary White contrast, just one coat and done. You know, I really think you can mix painting styles. I don't think there's a problem with that. You know, the one thick coat stuff, especially on, I think those supposed to look demony and ethereally, it looks fine, right? And then you've got all the fleshy bits on the actual marines, like their hands and their weird little pipe esophaguses and their boils, and the bits where they're bursting out their arm with tentacles. So that is a base coat of, this is from Duncan's video again, this little recipe. That is a base coat of Kislev flesh, Avalanche Sunset for the little raised up boily bits, and then shaded with Gulliman flesh and Magos purple, and you put them on wet and just kind of push them around together on the fleshy bit until you're happy with the effect. And then a little bit of an edge highlight on flake with Flayed One Flesh once that's all dried. And then you've got the models painted and they look quite clean. And on the next slide, we're going to go on and look at the weathering. So the weathering, so I'm going to have to try and really explain what I've done here, aren't I? If we get the pen here, I'm going to do a blue so it shows up. So here is probably the best, if you can see that, the best example of where you can see the streaking, the rust streak. So that is a product called AK Interactive Rust Streaks, this one here. I've never ever used before. Duncan recommended them in his palette hand video, which I found, I knew about, and I was up. And this is not a plug, this is genuinely where I go for these things. I was up visiting my in-laws who live in Marple in Stockport, which is like 10, not even 10 minutes, like 8 minutes drive from Element Games. Element Games is genuinely I can't say it's my go-to place for every single piece of Warhammer that I buy. I like to support my local Warhammer store, even though that means paying a bit more, and there are other websites that I look at for pre-orders and things, but they are genuinely my go-to place for any kind of non-Games Workshop hobby product. They just have they have the widest selection in the UK that I've found. So AK Interactive Rust Streaks, and you put that on and it looks kind of gash, and then what you've got to do is kind of put it on, let it dry, and then attack it with, Duncan said White Spirit. When I went to Element, they didn't have any White Spirit. I got some odorless thinner. It seems to do the job. One thing I did, because Duncan talks about buying 2 pots so that you've got 1 pot for cleaning your brushes that's going to get dirty, and then 1 pot that's clean that you're going to use for the effect. I just had a little jam jar, little Bombermon jam jars. So I poured a bit of the thinner out of the new pot into the jam jar. That's what I use for cleaning my brushes, because if you're using these enamels, if you're using these enamels, which these AK Interactive products are, you need to wash them off in thinner and white spirit, and you need to not. I did reflexively lick my brush once while I was using them and got a massive headache because it's pretty vicious stuff. The reason Games Workshop doesn't make this stuff is because Games Workshop are aiming their products at a younger audience, and you can do yourself a serious injury. I got a tiny bit in my mouth because I'd already washed my brush and then washed it in the water, and then I just reflexively put it in my mouth to repoint it because I'm disgusting, but most people who paint do it, and it had just a little tiny bit, and a massive headache straight away, so that was exciting. Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, so that's the effect you get from the streaking. I'm not so sure about people think I'm being annoying and like seeking praise, maybe, I don't know, because every time I've put these on my Discord, I've put these on my Instagram and my Twitter, link goes in the description. I posted, the only reason I'm really making this video is I posted these in the Kill Team Reddit as well and got some really positive feedback. I'm not sure about them, and I know I'm a good painter, and so people therefore think when you're a good painter you don't need praise every 5 minutes because you know how good you are. I think I'm pretty good, but at the same time I just don't normally paint like this, and I don't know how good it looks really good. Like the bit I've circled in blue, I think it looks really good. There are other places I think where it doesn't look quite so good. But if you don't try stuff, you don't learn how to do stuff. And the first time you try a new thing, it's never going to look perfect. So I think they're pretty good. I think I've come to terms with them. It looks really good. How can I put it? It looks really good here as well. This looks really good. So this is the streaking grime, okay? But here, it looks a bit naff. I think that the things are a bit thick. It's just practice. Like, did I even remember to hit this one with the white spirit? I don't know. Right. Other people probably won't look at it this hard. Here, I think this looks pretty good. This bit looks pretty good. There are bits where I like it, and then there are bits where it pisses me off. Like this little streak here, that looks really cool and realistic. So there's some good and there's some bad. It comes with practice. I do have 2 more of these plague marines to paint that are the converted fighters with the combat weapons. So maybe I will get a bit more practice in. I think it would look pretty good. I've got some Imperial Guard tanks and aircraft and things that I mean to paint at some point. Maybe I'll try that on there as well. I don't know. It's not the only thing I did though. So the verdigris, it's just the Games Workshop verdigris paint, the nickel oxide. That's no problem. And then there's also weathering powders on these. Now, I have an interesting relationship with weathering powders. So I often use weathering powders on the feet of miniatures and get quite a subtle effect, because I've had the Forge World, because I'm a Games Workshop fanboy, right? So I've had the Forge World weathering powder set, like all of them, for years and years and years. But Forge World never sold any kind of pigment fixer. So what I would do is I would put weathering powders on stuff, and then I would put the satin varnish top coat on them, and it will blow off most of the weathering powders, but you will get a nice little subtle effect on the feet and things. This time I've used AK Interactive Pigment Fixer because Duncan recommended it on his videos. And again, what you do there is you put the powder on, and then you kind of dab it with the Pigment Fixer and let that dry, and then it will kind of set to the miniature. It does still seem to wash some of it away, but it will set to the miniature. So all over the feet here, on all of them, you've got the fresh mud pigment from Forge World. I don't know if Forge World even make their pigment powders anymore, but you can get pigment powders from Vallejo. You can get pigment. I think they're all the same stuff, right? But it's like a fresh mud pigment powder that kind of blends them right into their bases. That effect's really cool. There's a bit of the difference. There's like a bright rust. It's not a bright rust. The bright rust was too bright. There's like a mid rust, which you can see on the here on the chainmail, for example, and then there's like a dark rust which I've put in the middle. This fist was too white, like I did a work in progress picture on my Discord, and this fist was just glowing at me, and I'm like, I don't even know if the rust in the middle of the fist makes any sense, but there it is. Yeah, so that was done on, and that was with the pigment fixer. And then the bases. So the bases are a just Stirland mud. Let that fully dry for like a couple of hours or like an hour and a half, I think, with texture paints to get it properly dry. Then dry brush Gorthor and then Baneblade Brown. So like a normal dry brush of Gorthor, a really light dry brush of Baneblade Brown, and then a little bit of Plague Bearer Flesh just to give like a greeny hue to like little puddles of nonsense, because they are Plague Bearers. And then I tried to do some water effects, just a little tiny. I don't think you can barely see them, especially now I've scribbled on all the bases with purple pen. Let me just try and find, like, there's like, you can see a little bit, if I get a pen, you can see a little bit here. Right, there's a little tiny bit of water effect, which basically, you do Agrax Earthshade Gloss, and then over the top of that, a little bit of this puddle stuff from AK Interactive again, which is an acrylic, like a water effects. I don't know if it was worth doing. I don't know if you can even really tell. I know it's on there, but yeah, some people really like these. I got loads of really positive feedback, so I just don't. They're just a little bit out of my. I usually do. I don't know if they're quite what I had in my head when I started. But I think the thing with weathering anything is you can push it too far. And I worry that I've pushed it too far, is basically what it comes down to. And it's knowing when to stop. But then they are Plague Marines, so I guess you can kind of go nuts with Plague Marines and it's fine, and that's... Yeah. I need to paint this for a battle or something really clean again. I don't know. Yeah. But I think they came out pretty cool at the end of the day. Sorry, I'm raving and rambling. While I'm here, before I move on to the next slide, I want to say, if you have somehow enjoyed this video and you haven't subscribed, could you please consider subscribing, because I'm really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That would be really great. And if you want to buy any of this AK Interactive stuff, Element Games link in the description as well. But anyway, moving on to the last slide. So, final thoughts. I'm not sure how happy. I'm not sure how happy I am with them, but I have got a lot of positive feedback. I've said that already. Right? Other people seem to think they're great. I, for some reason, just have a weird mental something about them that I don't know. But it is really good to get a project finished. And at some point, the best miniatures that you do are the ones that you've finished. And this is... So, last year, I posted a hobby bingo card for last year, for 2021. Doing that again on the Discord for 2022. Me and Zimbad are certainly doing it. Like, anyone can join in. It's like not been anything. Like, I painted the Octarius terrain, technically still at the end of 2021, but I put it onto 2022's bingo card because it was like right at the end of the year. And that's it. That's really all I've painted. And now I've done these, so I've got something else on there. And Zimbad's not got anything else on there, but I think he's painted a lot of stuff and then just like, oh, I couldn't take pictures and upload it. But I think he's being kind, basically. So you see that I've not painted very much. He doesn't want to be like, oh, I've painted about 50 things. But I have painted, like I did 9 sister. I did the second box, basically, of the novitiates, but I haven't painted their leader yet, because obviously the leader wasn't done in the batch. If I paint the leader, then I can photograph the 10 of those and get another project kind of boxed off and finished. I do have 2 more Plague Marines to paint, but it's hard. I've got stuff to do for work, and then obviously having moved house, I've got things to do like mowing lawns and other boring grown-up nonsense. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do leave a comment down below if you like them. Please leave a comment down below if you don't like them as well, because I want to know how I can use them better. Please leave a comment down below if you've used the weathering bits that I talked about on the previous slide before, and you've got some hints and tips on how to use them better and more effectively as well. That would be really good. I have no idea what's coming next. Probably the next video is going to be... Will I get another video out before Warhammer Fest? I don't know. Hope you enjoy your bank holiday Monday. Anyway, if you're in the UK, public holiday. It's the May Day bank holiday, which is a bit of cultural exchange. So it's the equivalent of like Labor Day in the US, I think. Don't quote me. It's like the workers' bank holiday, right? Yeah. I mean, they're all workers' bank holidays. Cheerio. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye. Cheerio.